Have you ever noticed how the loudest people in the room often have the least control over themselves? In today's world, where everyone is shouting to be seen, the real power lies with those who remain calm, measured, and quietly in control. You don't need to fight every battle. You don't need to prove your worth with words. The Stoics understood something few do today. Silence is not weakness, it's strategy. If you've ever felt drained from endless arguing, overwhelmed by noise, or exhausted from trying to gain approval, this message is for you. Because Stoicism teaches us that to win silently is not just possible, it's unstoppable. It's about mastering your attention, detaching from chaos, and letting your quiet strength do the talking. You're not alone in feeling burnt out by modern life's performance trap. Many are tired of pretending, proving, and performing. That's why this video exists, to offer a path back to clarity, composure, and control. We're going to explore timeless strategies from Stoic philosophy, all designed to help you outsmart chaos without stress and move through life with unshakable presence. So if you're ready to live without needing approval, to lead without noise, to win without arguing, then stay with me. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and let's begin the journey toward mastering the quiet power that changes everything. This isn't about sounding strong. It's about being unshakably strong, silently. 1. Silence as a strategic weapon. In a room filled with noise, the one who says nothing often knows the most. While others rush to impress, explain, and assert, the Stoic sits still, listening, watching, absorbing. He is not there to compete for attention. He is there to understand the arena itself. And that, in the long run, is how you outsmart everyone, silently. The world teaches us to speak quickly, react instantly, and defend ourselves at the first sign of discomfort. But the Stoic rejects this chaos. He does not speak to be heard. He speaks to shape the moment. His silence is not absence. It is presence in its purest form. In that stillness, he sees what the anxious fail to notice. Motives veiled behind smiles, insecurity hiding beneath confidence, and patterns unfolding beneath the surface of noise. In every setting, be it a business meeting, a family dinner, or a negotiation, the one who observes more than he talks holds a quiet advantage. Picture this: a boardroom of executives pitching their ideas, all speaking over each other, trying to sound smart, trying to win. But one man listens, not passive, but precise. He watches where eyes shift, where tension builds, where unspoken alliances form. And when he finally speaks, he says little, but what he says cuts through like a blade. His words land, not because they're louder, but because they were born from silence, shaped by clarity, and delivered with timing. That is what real influence looks like. Not noise, but precision. Not presence forced, but presence earned through restraint. The Stoic knows that silence does something extraordinary. It strips away the need to impress. When you no longer speak to gain approval, you are free to understand the world as it is, not as others pretend it to be. Most people speak to be understood. The Stoic listens to understand. And in doing so, he earns a hidden power, because when others speak, they reveal far more than they realize. They show you their fears, their blind spots, and their emotional dependencies. They give away their strategy without knowing it. And all the while, the silent man watches, collects, and waits, not to exploit, but to move when the moment is right. It is not indifference. It is discipline. It is the refusal to waste energy on posturing. It is the art of choosing when to act and when to hold. And it takes strength, real inner strength, to resist the temptation to react, to explain, to defend. The discipline to hold your words like a sword, drawn only when necessary, is not something given. It is something earned, practiced in solitude, sharpened in silence. You see it clearly in those who've mastered it. The seasoned trial lawyer who says nothing while the opposing counsel unravels in emotional overreach, then speaks just once and sways the jury. The elderly carpenter who doesn't market his skill, but whose every crafted table speaks louder than 1,000 advertisements. The mother in conflict who listens calmly while the other shouts, then responds with just a sentence that changes the room's energy. They are not loud, but they are heard. They are not dominant, but they are felt. And they are not controlling, but they command. That is the paradox of silent power. The less you try to be seen, the more they watch you. The less you speak, the more your words carry. The more you observe, the less they can predict. And in a world addicted to exposure, the man who knows how to remain partially hidden becomes a force no one saw coming, but no one can ignore. Silence is a strategy. Observation is a shield. Precision is the weapon. And when used together, they form a kind of influence that does not need recognition to be real. It simply is. Like a shadow that moves with purpose, like wind shaping mountains in silence, your presence, when disciplined and unseen, will change everything it touches. Not because you fought for attention, but because you mastered the strength to hold it without ever asking for it. 2. Let your actions speak, not your mouth. Those who speak the most often do the least. Those who proclaim their intentions loudly are usually the ones still convincing themselves. In a world where image is currency and noise is mistaken for value, the Stoic walks a different path. He does not announce his plans. He does not explain his discipline. He does not seek validation for his effort. He simply acts, quietly, relentlessly, unshakably. Because the one who truly intends to build, to master, to outlast, does not speak about it. He simply begins and continues, without the need for applause, without the craving for recognition. Modern life is a theater of performances. People post their routines, announce their goals, broadcast their progress, and decorate their discipline with hashtags. But what they reveal is not power, it is dependence. Dependence on being seen, on being liked, on being praised. The Stoic knows this is a trap. The more your work needs to be witnessed to feel meaningful, the more fragile that work becomes. True discipline thrives in the dark. It doesn't demand to be seen. It demands only to be done, over and over again, without an audience, without a stage. Imagine a man who rises before dawn, sharpens his skill, tends to his craft, not because the world is watching, but precisely because it is not. His standard is internal. His reason is his own. Over time, his excellence begins to speak. Not with words, not with flashy statements, but with undeniable results. A table perfectly carved, a body reshaped, a mind sharpened. These outcomes speak volumes, far louder than any speech, far more convincing than any promise. He does not need to explain what he is doing. The results explain it for him. You see this quiet dominance in the world around you if you pay attention. The seasoned athlete who trains in silence, away from the spotlight, whose performance on the field speaks for years of effort. The woman who rebuilds her life after loss, not by documenting every tear, but by showing up daily, building brick by brick, until her presence is once again undeniable. The craftsman who never advertises, but whose name is passed from one whisper to the next, until his work becomes legend. These people are not chasing influence, they are becoming worthy of it. Not by trying to be seen, but by becoming impossible to ignore. The Stoic understands that the loudest declaration means nothing if not backed by quiet consistency. He does not need to explain his philosophy because he embodies it. His work ethic, his habits, his results, they reveal his code. And that code is written not in words, but in the repetition of right action. No shortcuts, no excuses, no need to explain. Just a silent, disciplined commitment to become more than what he was yesterday. That is the most powerful declaration one can make. Not a speech, but a transformation. So when you are tempted to announce, to broadcast, to be seen, pause. Let your stillness grow roots. Let your actions compound in silence. Let your consistency become your voice. Speak less, move more. Prove less, build more. And when the time comes, when the results arrive, they will speak with a power no performance can match. You will not need to say a word. They will ask how you did it. And you will smile, because while they were talking, you were becoming. While they were explaining, you were enduring. While they were seeking approval, you were chasing virtue. That is how you outsmart everyone, silently. Not by overpowering them with volume, but by outlasting them with discipline. Not by telling your story, but by living a life that tells it for you. Let your footsteps echo louder than your voice. Let your presence carry more weight than your explanation. And like the river that carves stone, not by force but by persistence, let your action, day after quiet day, shape a legacy no one can deny. 3. Emotional detachment. The core of Stoic strength power does not belong to the one who feels everything. It belongs to the one who is not ruled by what he feels. While the world teaches you to react, to personalize, to attach your worth to outcomes, the Stoic stands unmoved. His calm is not carelessness. His stillness is not apathy. It is control. It is mastery. It is the quiet force of emotional detachment, forged through the disciplined understanding that you do not own the result. You only own the effort. To outsmart the world silently, you must begin by withdrawing your emotions from things that do not belong to you. Most people are easy to manipulate because they crave too much. They crave recognition. They crave approval. They crave the illusion of certainty. And in that craving, they give away their peace. Praise makes them euphoric. Criticism breaks them. They lose control because they never had it. The Stoic knows better. He knows that to need nothing is to become untouchable. To desire no applause is to stand on unshakable ground. When you no longer fear the outcome, you begin to act from virtue, not vanity, from purpose, not pressure. Picture two warriors before battle. One stares into the future, obsessed with victory, terrified of failure. His emotions swell with every imagined scenario. The other simply sharpens his sword, steadies his breath, and prepares his mind. He knows he cannot control the wind, but he can hold the rudder. He is not attached to winning, he is attached to fighting well. And because of that, he walks into the storm with clarity, not confusion, with presence, not panic. That is the strength detachment gives you, the ability to move forward with purpose, regardless of the noise, the outcome, or the judgment of others. This principle is not just for warriors, it applies to life itself. A man who attaches his identity to his job title will crumble when the market shifts. A woman who needs constant affirmation from others will drown when silence falls. A leader who builds his confidence on applause will collapse when faced with opposition. Their emotional center is external, and therefore fragile. But the Stoic brings it inward. His self-respect comes from his values, not his victories. His discipline comes from within, not from watching eyes. This is how you move through life untouched, not by being invincible, but by being unattached. Take Marcus, a young entrepreneur I once met. While others pitched loudly, begged investors, and obsessed over metrics, Marcus remained focused. He built, he failed, he tried again. He never complained, he never bragged. He simply refined his product, improved his process, and kept going. One day, his company became wildly successful, not because he played the emotional game louder, but because he refused to play it at all. His silence unnerved competitors. His calm drew investors. His discipline built trust. He outsmarted the noise by staying beneath it. He outlasted his peers, not because he fought harder, but because he needed less. That is the elegance of detachment. It frees you from the burden of proving, the exhaustion of pleasing, the chaos of needing. To practice this is not to become cold, but to become clear. You still care, but you care about the right things. You still feel, but you choose which feelings to follow. Detachment does not strip life of meaning, it restores it. Because when you stop chasing validation, you begin walking in purpose. And when you walk in purpose, nothing can truly derail you. Let others shout for attention. Let others collapse under praise or crumble under critique. You will keep moving forward, not because you are empty, but because you are full of something steadier than applause. Detachment is the quietest form of dominance. No declarations, no resistance, just quiet clarity, focused effort, and emotional independence. You outsmart everyone not by manipulating them, but by mastering yourself. And in doing so, you become immune to the chaos they cannot escape. You become the calm in their storm, the stillness they cannot understand. And in that stillness, you win, not by overpowering, but by needing nothing they can take from you. 4. Unshakable peace comes from indifference to ego games. You cannot outsmart the world if you're always reacting to it. When your emotions rise and fall with every praise or insult, you give away control. And when you give away control, you give away your edge. The Stoic moves differently. He does not flinch at insults. He does not chase compliments. He does not play ego games. He walks through fire without needing to prove he won't burn. This isn't coldness, it's command. This isn't apathy, it's awareness. To outsmart everyone silently, you must first learn how not to be pulled into every contest, every confrontation, every conversation designed to test your identity. We live in a world obsessed with reaction. Entire platforms thrive on provocation. Everyone wants to trigger a response, bait a reaction, pull your focus. But when you are calm, when you are centered, when you are unmoved by the noise, they lose. Not because you fought back harder, but because you refused to play. Because you understood that when you stop reacting, you take away their power. That is how you win without swinging. That is how you dominate without shouting. Your peace becomes your sword. Your stillness becomes your strategy. Picture this. A man in a crowded room is challenged. Another man questions his ideas in front of everyone, smirking, expecting a sharp rebuttal. But instead of reacting, the first man simply looks him in the eye, says nothing, and returns to his work. No defense, no ego, just focus. Minutes pass, the challenger stumbles, his power shrinks. The silence unnerves him because it reveals the truth. Only the insecure need to prove their strength. The Stoic knows that the strongest reply is often no reply at all. He lets others burn their energy while he protects his own. This isn't about staying quiet out of fear. It's about speaking only when the moment is worth your words. It's about preserving your energy for what truly matters. Because not every fire needs to be fought. Some just need to burn out on their own. The discipline to resist emotional bait is what sets you apart. Most people are slaves to the moment. The Stoic is master of himself. And when you master yourself, nothing outside of you can pull you off balance. There is a difference between silence and submission. Silence, when chosen with intention, becomes a weapon. It becomes a message louder than noise. It says, I am not here to compete for attention. I am here to command presence. It says, I don't need to prove I'm right. I need only to live with integrity. It says, I do not fear being misunderstood. I fear only losing control of myself. That kind of restraint makes you unpredictable, and the unpredictable man is dangerous. Not because he attacks, but because he cannot be provoked. You've likely seen someone like this in real life. A mentor who never raised his voice, but whose decisions shifted entire outcomes. A colleague who never entered the gossip, never chased credit, but whose influence quietly shaped the team's direction. A woman who never defended herself when insulted, yet commanded respect through the sheer strength of her presence. They never entered the battle for attention because they were already anchored in self-respect. They knew who they were, and that knowing made them immovable. When you stop reacting to ego games, you shift the balance of power. You no longer give others the keys to your emotional world. You respond only when it aligns with your principles, not your pride. That is how you win with discipline, not dominance. That is how you rise without noise. The Stoic chooses peace, not because he is weak, but because he is powerful enough to hold it. In a world where everyone is triggered, the one who remains calm commands the room. And that calm, that stillness, that choice not to engage in every fight, that is how you outsmart everyone silently. With restraint, with poise, with the kind of power that does not need to be seen to be felt. 5. Forge character through daily, unseen discipline. Greatness isn't built in public. It's forged in the unseen hours, in the early mornings when no one is watching, in the quiet decisions that leave no trail of applause, in the repeated acts of self-discipline that go unnoticed by the world but define everything about who you are. The Stoic does not wait for the world to recognize him. He builds himself when the world is silent. Because the man who disciplines himself in private becomes unshakable in public. And in a society obsessed with performance, that kind of inner fortitude is both rare and quietly formidable. We often associate power with outward moments, promotions, praise, milestones. But true strength does not show itself there. It's formed when you choose reflection over distraction, virtue over impulse, clarity over comfort. The Stoic sees discipline not as punishment, but as refinement. A daily sharpening of the blade, a quiet shaping of the soul. He rises early not for reward, but to meet the day on his own terms. He reads not to appear intelligent, but to deepen his mind. He writes not for recognition, but to understand himself. These habits don't make noise, but they build power. Quiet power, anchored power. Think of a man like Elias, a quiet tradesman who wakes before dawn, not to chase hustle culture, but because he knows his peace lives in structure. He reviews his intentions by candlelight. He works with focus, he listens more than he speaks, and when hardship comes, and it always does, He doesn't scramble. He adjusts, he endures, he stands, because his character wasn't built when things were easy. It was forged in countless moments of quiet resistance against ease, laziness, and distraction. People around him may not understand how he stays so composed, but he knows the answer. He prepared when no one was watching. There's a reason Stoic philosophy insists on daily examination. Every day is a battlefield for your principles. The enemy is not always external. Often it is the whisper of comfort, the seduction of instant gratification, the soft invitation to compromise. But every time you choose what's right over what's easy, you place another stone in the fortress of your character. And one day, when the storm hits, that fortress will stand. Not because you are lucky, but because you were loyal to the process of building yourself. You chose discipline when no one demanded it. You chose virtue when no one praised it. You chose resilience when no one cheered for it. This is how you outsmart everyone silently. Not with clever schemes, not with public displays of success, but by becoming someone who cannot be shaken from the inside. Because when your habits align with your values, your life becomes your quiet testimony. And that testimony speaks louder than words. It speaks through your calm during chaos, through your clarity when others are confused, through your steadiness when others fall apart. It says, I did not build this in front of you. I built this in silence, with discipline, with purpose, with every small choice that shaped the man I am today. The Stoic understands that applause is fleeting, but character remains. Titles can be taken. Reputation can be twisted, but the self you build through disciplined repetition, that is yours forever. And that self becomes your greatest weapon. Not to conquer others, but to stand unmoved when the world tries to conquer you. In a culture that rewards flash, build substance. In a society that prizes performance, value preparation. Do the quiet work. Embrace the dull repetition. Trust that every page you read, every temptation you resist, every honest effort you make in solitude is preparing you for the moment when the lights go out, the pressure rises, and all that's left is what you've built within. Then, and only then, you will understand why the Stoic trains in silence. Because silence is not absence, it is preparation, it is intentional, it is the forge of unshakable men. 6. Hardship is the furnace of true strength. You do not outsmart the world by avoiding difficulty. You outsmart it by being shaped by it without being broken. The Stoic understands that suffering is not the enemy, it is the training ground. In times of calm, anyone can appear composed, but it is the storm that reveals the structure. It is hardship that carves out character. And in the crucible of adversity, the quiet man who has trained himself not to flinch, not to panic, not to flee, that man becomes immovable. He does not seek struggle, but he does not run from it either. Because he knows, pressure does not destroy the prepared, it exposes the hollow. Picture the seasoned sailor in a violent sea. Others scramble, shout, grasp at the wind. But he remains steady, not because the storm is small, but because he is strong. He cannot control the waves, so he controls the sails. He cannot silence the wind, so he sharpens his attention. He moves with intent, not emotion. And in doing so he survives, quietly, calmly, effectively. That is Stoicism in motion, not the absence of chaos, but the presence of control within chaos. Not the denial of difficulty, but the discipline to stand tall in its presence. This isn't philosophy for comfort, it is strategy for resilience. Most people break down not because life is hard, but because they expected it to be easy. They look for shortcuts, guarantees, and soft landings. But the Stoic expects the storm. He trains for it in his habits, in his mindset, in the way he breathes through tension and meets discomfort without complaint. He knows that hardship is the price of depth. The fire of trial does not consume the Stoic, it refines him. What others see as punishment, he sees as preparation. I knew a man who lost everything, his home, his job, his family, in a span of 1 year. But he did not become bitter. He did not collapse. Instead, he woke each day at dawn, walked the same path through the cold streets, and wrote down 3 things he would control that day. His mindset, his words, and his discipline. No excuses, no drama, just quiet rebuilding, day after day. While others pitied him, he built himself brick by brick. And 5 years later, he didn't just have a new life, he had a new soul. One that could not be shaken. One that outsmarted life's cruelty, not with cunning, but with consistency. The Stoic does not measure strength by what he can dominate, but by what he can endure with dignity. He does not beg for comfort, he builds capacity. He does not chase recognition for his suffering, he finds revelation in it. Because every hardship becomes a mirror, every challenge is a forge, every setback is a silent teacher. And when you learn to walk through fire without shouting, without crumbling, you become dangerous in the best way. Not because you attack, but because you survive. Not because you boast, but because you bend and do not break. This is how you outsmart everyone silently. You build a kind of strength that needs no advertisement. When people around you are falling apart under pressure, you walk through it, unchanged. Not out of arrogance, but out of preparation. Not out of pride, but out of principle. You do not need to be loud about your pain. You let your poise speak for you. You let your calm terrify the storm. At the core of Stoic power is this truth. The strongest man is not the one who avoids the storm, but the one who becomes the mountain the storm breaks against. So when life tests you, and it will, do not ask for ease. Ask for the strength to meet it with virtue. Let others curse the fire. You become fireproof. And in your silence, in your endurance, in your disciplined stillness, you will leave a mark no thunder ever could. 7. True power needs no recognition. Power that needs to be seen is not power. It is insecurity dressed in ambition. In a world that rewards performance over principle, noise over nuance, the Stoic chooses a quieter kind of strength. A power not built on applause, but on alignment with one's values. A power not performed, but practiced. The modern world tempts us to market every step we take, every idea, every emotion, every so-called success. It says, be visible, be heard, be praised. But the Stoic asks, why? Why do you need the crowd to validate your journey if the journey itself is the reward? The one who truly outsmarts others silently is the one who no longer craves recognition, no longer performs for an audience. He understands that needing validation is another form of slavery. Subtle, seductive, and utterly draining. The more you chase approval, the more you shape yourself to fit expectations that are not your own. The Stoic breaks that chain. He does not advertise his discipline. He lives it. He does not explain his integrity. He embodies it. And in doing so, he becomes unshakable. I once met a retired combat medic who volunteered at a local shelter. Quiet man, moved slowly, spoke rarely, but there was a calm gravity about him. You could feel the years of crisis he had endured, not by the stories he told, but by the silence he carried. One night, a fight broke out in the shelter. Chaotic, loud, dangerous. While others panicked, he stepped in. One word, one gesture. Calm returned. No yelling, no threats. Just presence. Quiet, steady, unmistakable presence. Later, someone asked him how he did that. He smiled and said, I've seen worse. And when you face death in silence, noise doesn't move you. He never boasted. He never asked for praise. But everyone remembered him. This is the essence of quiet power. It does not seek to dominate, it stabilizes. It does not shout, it influences. It is not interested in being seen, because its strength is felt. It's the kind of presence that changes the room, not by entering loudly, but by being rooted in something real. The Stoic is not trying to impress you, he is trying to improve himself. And in that pursuit he becomes magnetic, not because he seeks attention, but because he no longer needs it. The danger of recognition is that it becomes addictive. Every applause becomes a standard, every like becomes a lifeline. But when the applause fades, and it always does, what remains? The Stoic's answer. Your virtue, your discipline, your internal compass. These are not things that can be broadcast. They live, and when they have lived long enough, they echo without a microphone. Let your life, not your voice, speak for you. Let your consistency become your character. Let your self-control become your signature. While others chase the spotlight, you build substance. While others broadcast intentions, you deliver quiet results. While others seek to be admired, you seek to be aligned with your values, with your principles, with the timeless truths that require no audience. In the end, true mastery is not what you convince the world you are. It is what you become when the world is not watching, when no one is clapping, when no one is listening. That is the proving ground. That is the forge. And when you rise from that fire, not louder but deeper, you will find that the influence you once chased now follows you uninvited. Respect flows not from noise, but from noble silence. Recognition fades, but self-respect endures. This is how you outsmart everyone silently. Not by playing the game louder, but by walking away from the board. Not by needing to be seen, but by becoming someone who cannot be ignored. In your quiet, you become a force. In your restraint, you become rare. And in your unspoken strength, you become unforgettable. In a world that rewards noise, performance, and instant validation, choosing silence as your strategy is not retreat, it is strength. What you've learned today is not just a collection of ideas, it is a way of living, a way of moving through life with quiet clarity, with discipline instead of distraction, with depth instead of display. The Stoics understood that the greatest victories are never loud. They are private. They happen within. And those who master their thoughts, their emotions, their reactions, these are the ones who reshape the world without needing to shout. So remember this. You don't need to argue to prove your intelligence. You don't need to be seen to be powerful. You don't need recognition to be valuable. Instead, let your restraint be your edge. Let your attention be your shield. Let your actions, consistent, intentional, unannounced, become your voice. The discipline to stay composed when provoked, the detachment from approval or outcome, the deep observation that sees beneath the surface. These are not traits you're born with. They are trained, they are forged, they are practiced every single day. This is your invitation to that practice. A life built in silence, but echoed in every room you enter. A quiet strength that speaks for itself. And when you choose to walk this path, you won't just outsmart the noise, you'll transcend it. You'll become someone the world cannot ignore, not because you spoke the loudest, but because you stood the strongest. If this message spoke to something deep within you, I invite you to reflect on it. Share your own experience in the comments below. When have you outsmarted through silence? What does quiet power mean to you? We learn not just from teachings, but from each other. So speak, not to impress, but to illuminate.